Good evening. I'm Sonika Loganathan, and welcome to Above the Fold. We begin with the austerity measures implemented by the Indian government amid the West Asia crisis, threats of fuel shortages, and pressure on forex reserves. We also take a look at U.S. President Donald Trump's visit to China, the plea in the Supreme Court to replace the National Testing Agency, and more. Stay tuned for our full report. Amid Prime Minister Narendra Modi's push to conserve fuel amid the crisis in West Asia, several BJP leaders have reduced their convoy sizes. The center has also doubled the import duty on gold and silver. Here's the full report.
In keeping with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 7 appeals for responsible fuel consumption amid the ongoing West Asia crisis, several state governments have initiated conservation measures. Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently called for responsible fuel use and conservation, saying patriotism today also means responsible behavior in everyday life. Following this, Union Home Minister Amit Shah reduced the size of his convoy by more than half. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav, and several other BJP leaders have also announced measures to cut convoy sizes and reduce fuel consumption. On Wednesday, video shared by ANI showed Prime Minister Modi traveling with a significantly reduced convoy during recent visits. States including Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Madhya Pradesh are also promoting public transport, carpooling, work from home practices, and the use of electric vehicles. At the same time, the center has sharply increased the import duty on gold and silver. The effective tax on imports has now doubled to 18.4%. Government sources say the move is aimed at protecting India's foreign exchange reserves and managing the current account deficit amid volatile global crude oil prices triggered by the West Asia conflict. However, economists and industry bodies have criticized the decision, warning that the higher duties may not reduce India's demand for gold.
To discuss the impact of these measures, we have with us our economics and business editor, TCA Sharad Raghavan, along with Aniket Singh Chauhan.
So my first question is just that, why did the government increase the import duty on gold?
Okay, look, the problem that the government is facing right now is that a lot of dollars are flowing out of the country in whether we're importing oil or it's gold or it's edible oil, or all of us going abroad and spending our money as tourists. Now, the thing is, oil is absolutely essential. And so even though you can cut it down, you can't really do much about it. Oil is essential to the economy. Gold, though, India, we import it much more for cultural reasons. There is some investment purposes as well, but most of it is for cultural reasons. And so trying to curb that, and that's why they increase the import taxes, they're trying to make it more expensive to import gold.
Right. And in lieu of that, you said that it's a cultural thing. And in India, it's really difficult to imagine just stopping people buying gold, especially when the festival season is around. So how much of an impact do you think this will have on the Indian people and their consuming habits?
So the thing is that at the margins, it will have an impact for the people who could just about afford the price of gold right now. Now it will become unaffordable. But there's a whole bunch of people who kind of will see that gold, the price of gold is only going to increase, especially as a safe haven asset during uncertain times. So they'll keep buying. So you can see maybe a 10-15% decrease in the import of gold. So similarly, the households at the lower end might stop, but most of the houses will continue. And then there'll be a rise in smuggling. So you'll find a lot of people trying to buy black market gold.
Okay.
And you'll be buying gold without a bill, without GST, all of that.
And that's never good for the economy.
That's never good for the economy.
President Trump just touched down in China for a 3-day summit with his counterpart, Xi Jinping. Their meeting is expected to cover the trade war, Iran, and much more.
I have a great relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to remain that way. We have a lot of things to discuss.
A cautious, perhaps even friendly approach to Chinese President Xi Jinping as US President Donald Trump arrives in Beijing for a multi-day visit. On the agenda, the trade war, the West Asia crisis, and the artificial intelligence race. Speaking to reporters at the White House before departing, Trump said while Iran would be on the agenda, he didn't need Xi's help. Referring to China, he said,
I think he's been relatively good, to be honest with you. You look at the blockade, no problems. They get a lot of their oil from that area. We've had no problem, and he's been a friend of mine. He's been somebody that we get along with, and I think you're going to see that good things are going to happen. This is going to be a very exciting trip. A lot of good things are going to happen.
China is the world's top importer of Iranian oil. The US hopes this could be an incentive for Beijing to push Tehran to reopen the crucial Strait of Hormuz, with about a fifth of the world's oil travels through. But the more pressing war on the agenda is likely to be the trade war. Trump is returning to a China far bolder than the one he last visited in 2017. Last year, China slammed back at Trump's aggressive tariffs by cutting off the supply of rare earth minerals and magnets, crucial supplies needed to make everything from cars, batteries, and medical equipment. During their meeting in South Korea last October, Trump and Xi formed and have maintained a truce. The US will hold midterm elections in November. For Trump, maintaining trade stability is critical to securing economic wins and restoring voter confidence. Washington is pushing Beijing to ramp up purchases of American products like Boeing aeroplanes, soya beans, and ethanol. Other issues expected to be discussed include the artificial intelligence race and Taiwan sovereignty. We spoke with Anant Krishnan, the Hindu's China correspondent, to understand what's going on in Beijing and what we can expect.
President Trump arrived in Beijing in the evening on Wednesday, and Vice President of China, Han Zheng, met him at the airport, which is something that they haven't done for other leaders, even for Vladimir Putin, which kind of shows the kind of unusual gestures that they are taking for Trump. And earlier today, I very sort of visited the neighborhood where Trump will be staying, the Four Seasons Hotel in Beijing, and they've essentially closed off a whole block, a neighborhood for Trump. And I think the whole city is kind of bracing itself for these unusual arrangements, which speak to the importance that they are putting on the visit. And I think they understand that these things work well with Trump.
So China and President Xi's grip on the country has also changed a lot since Trump last visited. And even in the past year or so, we've seen those changes. They're dominating several spaces like rare earth minerals, the tech space, especially AI. So how is this change going to affect the dynamic between the two leaders? And more importantly, how they discuss the trade situation?
Yeah, I think there is a change dynamic for sure, and would have been different if, as Trump had hoped, he was supposed to be in Beijing in end March, where he thought he would arrive after they just accomplished this quick regime change, a change of leader in Venezuela, and I think they were under the impression that the same thing would have happened in Iran. I think he thought he would arrive in Beijing having accomplished these two things with two countries that were obviously close partners of China. And instead, much of the discussion in Beijing in the last week has been about Iran showing the limits of US power and speaking to this perception that people in China have had in the last decade since the financial crisis of US decline. So that's kind of the context. But having said that, China still needs America for many things, especially Beijing's very concerned about the export controls, its access to chips. And that's something that definitely will be on the agenda. And of course, you also have people like NVIDIA's Jensen Huang, who's accompanied Trump for this visit. So for China, I think they're quite aware that they need the US for many things, just as the US needs China too. And I think Trump will be speaking, of course, on critical minerals and getting China to buy more US products, especially agricultural products. So I think both have something that they're looking for.
And beyond, trade and the war in Iran, there are a couple of other things that we expect to see on the agenda, like the AI race, Taiwan, green energy, things like that. So what do you think is the priority here?
I think the shorthand, an easy way for people to kind of capture the priorities is the three T's, which is trade for the US and for China as well to some degree. Taiwan, which is a big concern for China, and they'd want to see a US kind of commitment to its old policy. And finally, technology, which I think is the new kind of frontier in the relationship. And you mentioned AI. I think people are generally skeptical about whether there can be a meeting of minds, given that it's obviously for both countries, it's not just economics. It's something that's so crucial to their national strategies, and it's something that they're very suspicious of the other. There is apparently going to be some discussion on AI, but I think expectations are quite low in terms of how far that will go. So I think in priorities, the three T's will still be at the top of the list.
In other news, the Tamil Nadu government revoked its order appointing astrologer Rickey Radhan Pandit as officer on special duty political to Chief Minister C. Joseph Vijay, following sharp criticism from several quarters. The announcement of the appointment on Tuesday sparked a political row, with opposition parties and even some allies of the ruling TVK questioning the move. The issue was also raised in the assembly, where DMDK General Secretary Premalata Vijaykanth strongly objected the appointment. The government withdrew the order shortly after. Earlier, VCK chief Tol Tirumavallavan said the appointment may have been made because Vetrivel was also a party spokesperson, not merely because he was an astrologer. CPIM State Secretary P. Shanmugam criticized the decision, saying a government should promote scientific temper and not encourage belief in astrology through official posts. The government is yet to provide a detailed reason for withdrawing the appointment order. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has said that the cost of the war with Iran has risen to nearly $29 billion, increasing pressure on U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration to resolve tensions. During a budget hearing on Capitol Hill, lawmakers revealed that the $29 billion amount was about $4 billion higher than what the figure was just 2 weeks ago. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told lawmakers that the revised number includes repair and replacement costs for military equipment, along with broader operational expenses. Democrats questioned whether the true cost is actually much higher, especially after the reports of the damage to U.S. military facilities during the conflict. This comes at a time when the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran appears increasingly fragile. U.S. President Donald Trump warned that the truce is on what he called, quote, life support, after rejecting Tehran's latest peace proposal. Lawmakers also raised concerns over shrinking U.S. weapons stockpiles and demanded greater transparency from the administration about the long-term cost and the objectives of the war. Now back to India, the NEET-UG 2026 controversy has intensified, with a petition filed in the Supreme Court seeking the replacement or restructuring of the National Testing Agency after the medical entrance exam was cancelled over a major paper leak. More than 22 lakh students had appeared for the exam on May 3rd, and the NTA has now announced a retest while the center has handed the probe to the CBI. The petition, backed by the Federation of All India Medical Association, has called for a court-monitored re-examination under a high-powered committee and strict security measures, including digital locking of question papers and a shift to computer-based testing. Investigators are saying that the leaked guest paper was traced to a medical student from Rajasthan studying in Kerala and was circulated among students through social media groups and local networks. The controversy has also sparked political reactions, with Aam Aadmi Party chief Arvind Kejriwal saying repeated paper leaks had shaken students' confidence and questioned the effectiveness of previous CBI probes. Meanwhile, the BJD took a swipe at Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, alleging that repeated NEET leaks reflected negligence and accused him of focusing more on politics in Odisha than on his responsibilities in Delhi. Let's now turn to the Hindu Roundup for some of our exclusive content. In an editorial titled Split Wide Open on the AIA-DMK Tamil Nadu politics, the piece argues that the AIA-DMK seems set on a path of self-destruction, with its growing internal crisis reflecting the larger political churn underway in Tamil Nadu after repeated electoral setbacks. The editorial notes that the party's 47 MLAs are now divided between supporters of General Secretary Edappadi K. Palaniswamy and a descendant faction led by former ministers C.V. Shanmugam and S.P. Velumani, which appears to enjoy greater backing within the legislature party. The descendants' decision to support the TVK government, along with Chief Minister C. Joseph Vijay's outreach to the group ahead of the trust vote, is seen as politically significant. The piece also examines the legal and political implications of the split, including possible anti-defection proceedings and the prospect of the rebel faction merging with the TVK if it secures the support of 2/3 of the MLAs. It concludes that the Assembly Speaker may soon face a key constitutional test, while the instability within the AIA-DMK is likely to deepen the ongoing realignment in Tamil Nadu politics. Tap the card above to watch the editorial on the Hindu Originals YouTube channel. In the latest episode of the IPL show, Vidyut Sivaramakrishnan and KC Vijayakumar discuss Kolkata Knight Riders' revival, why Royal Challengers Bengaluru still appears better placed in the playoff race, and why KKR should focus on taking one game at a time instead of worrying about the top 4 equation.
Your thoughts on today's game, RCB versus KKR?
Yeah.
In fact, they were the ones who started the IPL in 2008, the first game, right?
Yeah.
So how do you look at these two teams?
Playing in Raipur, again, the pitch has a little bit assistance for the bowlers. RCB almost lost last game.
Yeah.
Bhuvneshwar Kumar 6 made the difference, and now the Krunal Pandya played a stunning knock. He's been a revelation. So KKR again, I think it's very important they approach the game in the same way, not thinking about okay, we have a chance for a top 4. Just look at the present moment. They have gotten better. They are playing much better. Cam Green's form, Rinku Singh. The spinner Sunil Nayan has been great. Varun Chakravarti last 4-5 games has really back to where he was. And somebody like a Karthik Tyagi has had a brilliant comeback. He's got the pace, he's got the accuracy, and he's become a lot more smarter, which is very important. So it's not going to be easy for RCB. I feel like KKR will have a chance, and I think this pitch will suit them. It's not a slam bang pitch. They're somebody who thrive by bowlers and who also play smart cricket. They're not somebody who will get 80 in 6 overs. They look to keep wickets in hand, and maybe then Cam Green and somebody like Rinku Singh can really fire then. So it's going to be a great game, little bit towards RCB. It's going to be a crucial game for them. But KKR, I think if it was Chinnaswamy, I would say RCB all the way. But because they're playing in Raipur, I still feel KKR will have a slight chance, but definitely more towards RCB.
And finally, Japan's biggest snack maker, Calbee, has come up with an unusual way to deal with supply shortages linked to the ongoing US-Israeli war on Iran. They're doing it by switching some of its colorful packaging to black and white. The Tokyo-based company says it will temporarily reduce the use of colored ink on 14 popular products, including its potato chips and breakfast cereals. Calbee says the move is aimed at conserving raw materials needed for printing ink, which relies on naphtha, an oil-derived product. Japan imports nearly 40% of its naphtha from West Asia, and companies are increasingly trying to cut costs and manage shortages as the conflict continues to disrupt supply chains. And that is it for today. Thank you for watching. Please share your thoughts on today's episode in the comments section. And if you found this video useful, don't forget to share it and save Above the Fold playlist so that you never miss an update.